But back to Teams, I kind of steer this back. So Teams, you can still access the idea of having all your documents and the people you talk to all in the same place. That's the concept behind the Teams, is that everything is in like an organized location.
Yeah,
right?
it makes it easier.
Yeah.
The biggest obstacle to SharePoint was using SharePoint. So getting people to use SharePoint.
Seriously.
My wife's a SharePoint admin for her company. She's like, I have designed everything the way you want it, and I've laid out all the documents. If you need the contract information, it's in SharePoint. And you go to the SharePoint site, you look up the client, it has the contract and all that stuff. And she did it with like meta search. It's awesome. And she says nobody uses the damn thing because she can't get them to use the damn thing. So I said, why don't you just pin a tab in their general team to the site? And she goes, she suddenly got like 30% more adoption. Because people were like, I don't know what the URL is. I don't want to type it.
Did you charge her?
Where's your commission on that? That's what I was going to ask.
I was like, yeah. So anyway, so that was, the obstacle was typing the URL to SharePoint.
Yeah.
That was the obstacle.
So your wife's company is using Teams.
They are reluctantly.
They're on the cusp.
They are reluctantly adopting it.
I love the whole pinning and the tabs that are on the top, so you could take all of your favorites and pin them to the top of the conversations. But then we use Power BI reports all the time under certain teams. Like the support meeting team has a Power BI of all my guys' stats.
Right.
And then, the projects team has Power BIs for all the projects that are open. And it's just, you sit down, you join the meeting, everyone goes to the team, you click the Power BI report, it opens in screen. And I mean, it's like, it's so easy to do all of that stuff. And I can't live without Teams.
Yep. I tell you, the key in all the projects that I've done, the key to adoption has always been get the chat piece to work. If you get them chatting, don't worry about the file piece. Don't worry about it. Yeah. What about party integration, third-party apps? And stop.
Yeah.
Get them to send each other funny pictures of cats. Get them to do it.
That's what we grew up on, or what technology has adopted to is like our phones, right? We're used to instant messaging, the like Snapchat and Instagram, this kind of like immediate communication thing. And it seemed like when I first started, at least in the internet world, is like we had like instant messaging chat.
Yeah, ICQ. Everybody had ICQ.
ICQ, and I don't know what happened to all those things.
Chris Bridges still uses it now. You can hear it go off all the time.
127-9208. That was my ICQ number.
I think they shut it down.
No. He that's how he talks to his wife.
He set it up on a private server.
You just hear wow like 12 times a day.
Yeah. So what happened to ICQ? ICQ had like shared chat, had file transfer. What happened to it? It was insecure as a devil. That's what happened to it. It was all that communication was designed with me running it on a computer with a live IP on it, and you had to have a live IP on it. So when the first needs, it was more like, well, now I don't have a computer at my house. I have 2 computers at my house. So hang up so I can use the internet, and then came the NAT router, right? The network address translation. Now those things stopped working. So then AIM, remember AIM came out, AIM had the third party, right? So AIM had connected third party. And the messages went third party as opposed to direct. And so then suddenly I can't use file transfer because now there's a firewall.
Yeah. It got complicated
to use. It got complicated.
So it was easy to use, and then it got complicated to use.
Right. Security complicated everything.
Interesting. So that's what was missing. It seems like there wasn't like a really good chat communication tool in business, right?
Well, so Skype. So the first one I ever rolled out in mass was a Lotus same time.
Oh man, I remember that.
Just as an IBMer, so there was no choice. It was pretty cool, but the back end was not for mortals.
It was Domino, right?
Domino. Yeah. The same for Lotus Notes. It was not for mere mortals, and ugly. And then then there was Microsoft Communicator, then there was Link, then there was Skype for Business.
And those were hard applications. I mean, you need to require a server,
the
like
back
farm, to run these
things.
That's
right.
The Link, that's what we were doing when I first showed up, was the Link server.
Yeah, we were experts in Exchange, and we started setting up Communicator and all the back-end servers. Almost that setup deployment for Communicator was more complicated than running Exchange.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
and if you added telephony, it became even more complicated.
Yeah, and then telephony was even harder because everyone had a different telephony solution, so nothing was consistent.
Yep. Yeah, that was the piece with Skype. If your company had if you were larger, you're very corporate-y, there was a whole lot of thou shalt culture. Obviously, it's easy to drive adoption, but that's not our clientele, right? So that's not the majority of businesses in America. The majority of businesses in America are small to medium, so 100 employees. It's hard to drive adoption. So the Skype piece was great for communication, but file sharing was still very old. I share a file with you, it ends up in your downloads. We're still playing the same game.
A lot of file sharing applications, the third-party websites that transfer large files, right? That's kind of what happened there.
Right.
Even we created a piece of software that did that.
Right. So that never and that never. I mean, it became very popular in the enterprise, but I never saw it catch on in smaller companies. I could never convince anybody to do it, and if they did it, they never used it.
Because everyone had their own solution, and
That's
it was a lot of different systems all cobbled up, and no one could agree on which one's the popular one, right?
Exactly.
Is it that, or is it that people are just so used to standing up and walking over to their coworker?
The sneaker net.
Is that what that's called?
That's cool. I didn't know that.
Again, if you're a small business, if you're, you could be a $10 million, $20 million, 10-user company, right? But if your company has an office in Pittsburgh, then you're going to be sending emails.
Well, no. Well, one of the first companies that I went to do Teams training on, they were like, well, why would I do this and not stand up and walk over to my coworker? And I'm like, boy, are you not thinking about the future? But it's like, this office won't be here. We're trying to get you where you don't even need to be.
You know what my response to that customer is? It's simple. Why don't you go over there and talk to them about them? Did you text them? Have you ever texted the person in the cube next to you? Well, yeah. Why didn't you get up and just talk to them?
There's a stat somewhere we should provide the information, but it says if you're working more than 200 feet away from somebody, the likelihood for you to collaborate with them is just goes down 90%.
That's all right.
Collaborate in person?
Yeah.
Collaborate and listen.
So even in our office, and I think in some way that's the case here. It's like if you're all the way down the other end of the office, is we don't talk as much as if you were just next door, right? In support right now, you guys are all
Ingram
nice.
ignores me all the time.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're the farthest apart.
You guys are all in a huddle down in support. So if you were to separate you guys out without keeping you cohesive somehow,
I mean, we see that now.
That's what the pods are for.
I mean, Evan and Justin have been working from home for the last 6 months, and I don't even remember what they look like.
So one of the biggest pieces of feedback once I go over with clients the chat feature and going over it and talking about the GIFs and all that funny faces, the first thing they say is it's like Facebook, and then I've had this conversation multiple times. I say, so there's a mentioning system that triggers notifications at a user. What? Huh? Notification? What? I don't. And then we do little faces, and they say, and then you can send a shout out and blah blah blah. Oh, it's like Facebook, and then we have the notification conversation again. Oh, I get it.